This is the episode about Tuckman's stages of group development focused on group performing. So what's your role as a leader? Well, the first thing is to step back and just appreciate where you've got the team to, because it's taken a lot of mental energy on your part to overcome the storming phase, to get everyone working together, to get everyone understanding. You know, you've probably had a lot of briefings with people, a lot of meetings. So just step back and appreciate the work that you did, because that's something that healthy workplaces should do, and a lot of workplaces don't do well enough, is celebrating achievement. So take a moment to celebrate your own achievement, because other people won't necessarily do that for you. All right, the other thing that you'll need to be thinking about is how to provide feedback to the team. So there are going to be cases where you don't necessarily agree with decisions or think that they're the best decision. It could be from a technical perspective, it could be from a political perspective, it could be that you've seen something come out of the team that is going to be very difficult for you to sell to management. It might be completely unacceptable. So what you need to be able to do is communicate that to the team, but in a way that it doesn't slow their momentum. And the easiest way to do that, I find, is to point out what the constraints are that you're working against, and let them know that, you know, the solution that you've come up to, while it makes sense, there's other elements of the context. Perhaps you didn't mention it previously, perhaps it's only just come to light, perhaps it was an oversight. You just have to be honest about why the decision that they have made isn't going to cut it in this case, and ask them to reconsider what their recommendation would be now that they have that new information. So that's a way to ask for them to rethink it in a very respectful way, acknowledging that you don't have the answers and you're not presuming to know more than they do, but that for you, that you'll be unable to complete your role with things as they stand. So they really do have a responsibility to go back and double check and make modifications as needed. So that's more a comment on the outcomes that the project team is coming out with. But there's also then the individuals on the team and the performance of those people. Now, look, giving this type of feedback to people is not my specialty. I've had a few very tough conversations that didn't go well with people. I think the key is to explain what's not working, and honestly, I would be asking someone else for assistance in framing that conversation. It's very specific to the particular circumstance that you find yourself in, who the individuals involved are, so them being one, you being another one, and your experience with dealing with these types of issues, but also, your seniority within the organization, because how you handle these things does have an impact on you. Not that it should necessarily. So if you think about your role as leader should be to achieve an outcome, and personal conflict should be completely separated from that theoretically, but be aware that if you're having a conflict with someone who in the future might have an impact on the success of your career, it's important for you to at least be aware of that, and bear in mind, and to keep in mind the different ways that you could approach a problem, and be aware to the different ways that that could play out, including worst case scenarios. So yeah, I would definitely be recommending that you talk through your approach to underperforming team members, with a mentor of yours, or maybe with HR if you've got it, or do a lot of research online to see different ways that other people recommend handling those issues. It's definitely something that I want to research more and talk about my experiences once I've had a few more. But be aware that you might encounter issues with individuals and you might have to deal with them. So don't be alarmed by that. but definitely be prepared to handle the situation rather than taking no action and letting it get worse. And then, as we mentioned in the previous episode, there's also that idea of looking at leadership succession planning and who might be well placed to take on the role of leadership if your skills are better used somewhere else in the future, particularly if there's another project coming up that you're expected to transition into. It's good to give someone in your team the skills to take on your role. So if you did identify someone in the previous phase and you talk to them about what that kind of personal development might look like, the performing stage is really where you start integrating that into the day-to-day operation of the team. So it could be having that person shadowing you, and of course make the other team members aware that that's what you're doing if you think that that's the best way to manage the team that you're working with. Because of course, if you start treating one person differently to the rest of the team, there will be questions as to why that's happening. So be prepared to answer those questions if they come up. And for the person that you are mentoring, you want to give them the opportunities to do what you do. I want to talk more about mentoring. Obviously, I've got my own opinions on how that might work best, but some simple things that I'd suggest is making them aware of the decisions that you make as a leader, both on particular technical issues, but also the ways that you're thinking about the team and how it works, and the fact that you're working on personal development with them, but that you're also considering other opportunities for other people, and you're trying to fulfill the requests of other people, so that when they eventually do take your role as leader, they know to maintain those initiatives as well. So what you want is as minimal disruption to the working team as possible when that leadership transaction happens in the future. Okay. Oh, the other thing that you can do is invite them to lead workshops or have debriefing sessions with them after workshops, where you talk about how the conversation ebbed and flowed and who contributed and who didn't, and how you might draw out feedback from people that didn't contribute, how you might park issues from people that did tend to dominate the conversations. So you can talk through all of those types of decisions and leadership tactics. You could even talk them through Tuckman's stages of group development, so they start understanding the way that you're thinking about leadership. Those are all things you can do in the team performing stage. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. This is the 4th of 5. This one was on team performing. Next one will be on team adjourning, which is really how to wrap up a project at the end once you've experienced all your wonderful successes. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please subscribe to see more, and thank you for watching Leader Logic. I hope that you get to enact some of these in the future.